Welcome back to Left in the Attic. I'm Anna.
And I'm Deep. Today we're going to be talking about the culture around Colorado politics, especially around the Colorado Capitol, running for office as an immigrant, as a woman of color, as a young mom. And we're featuring today special guest, Representative Yara Zokaie from House District 52 up in Fort Collins. But first, Anna, Thanksgiving was a couple weeks ago, and I heard you went across the border to Mexico. How was that?
Yes, no, Thanksgiving, I went to go see my abuela, my grandma. She's 97, y'all. So,
wow.
I don't want to flex in, those genes, but, that's pretty exciting. My grandma lives in a small border town in southern New Mexico. Ever since I was a baby, we would cross the border, generally walking. Every now and then we drive across, but yeah, I walked across the border as we do every time we see my grandma. We have lunch. Sometimes we pass by the pharmacy, grab tortillas. This is what we always do. If we have to take my grandma, she sees the dentist over there. I decided yeah. Actually, this is the thing. I don't think a lot of people realize that people assume immigrants from Mexico or, other countries that come to the U.S. take advantage of our public services, or people like to frame it like that. But I know a lot of Americans that go to Mexico to receive care that is cheaper, by their prescriptions. My grandma has been going to the dentist her whole life there in Mexico. So I just took a couple clips during my day there. I decided to put it together into a video and just share it, because I was I just realized not a lot of people actually know what it's like to walk across the border, especially in today's time with all of the anti-immigrant rhetoric. Low-key went viral. I was very surprised by that. It was a great trip.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yara, what'd you do for Thanksgiving?
I went to visit family, and I grew up with a large Persian community. All of my family friends that I've known since I was born actually got together for once. Usually some of us are missing, but yeah, it was a really great time. And I will say this, they're all in different phases of life than I have 3 kids. So my life is revolving around chasing 3 monsters who I love.
Wait, how old are your angels kids? Yeah.
They are 9, 6, and 2. I have 3 boys, and never a dull moment. But they're all still dating or soon to be engaged, we think. But they were having a great time. We were all drinking through Thanksgiving, and I was like, I have to do this and also watch these 3 guys. So little multitasking. Mostly my husband just single parenting while I drank with my friends. But yeah, it was a great time. It was nice to see everybody.
How many people are we talking? This Thanksgiving gathering here in Colorado?
We were in Sacramento this year, and there are 6 or 7 families that get together.
That's quite.
That was great. A decent sized group featuring 1 white husband. That's my husband.
Right.
Lots of Persians, 1 white man. Really great time.
That's literally my side of the family too. We had about 20 to 25 people at my grandma's house, all Latino except for my dad, the 1 white guy.
Shout out to the 1 white guy.
What about you?
Thanksgiving was pretty uneventful. Just kind of went to my wife's cousin's house with a couple other folks and just had a good time. My birthday is always around Thanksgiving. It's November 28th, which is sometimes on Thanksgiving or around it. 21st birthday was actually on Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is the one holiday where everybody's not in town. I'm someone who loves to throw a big party, loves to go out, do all those kind of things, and no one's ever around. We have started this new tradition, though, on Wednesday nights for the last 10 years or so, ever since I've been in Cap Hill. On Wednesday night, you've probably heard of it's Blackout Wednesday, where it's the busiest bar holiday of the year.
I did not know that it was called
Blackout
Blackout
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Me to anything on Wednesday
Because
night.
you're never in town.
If anything, I'm finding out about this hurt.
Anna and my friends are never in town, so I have to, just with a handful of people who are still here.
Blackout alone?
Wait, I'm
so
sorry.
we
Are
go
you
to
saying?
Charlie Brown's.
Maybe I'm having an ADHD moment. You're saying all Wednesdays are Blackout Wednesdays, or are you
The
saying
Wednesday
the
before
Thanksgiving?
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
It's known as Blackout Wednesday in America. It's the busiest bar day of the entire year. And everyone goes to their hometown, and then that Wednesday night they go to their local bars. For us, for the last 10 years or so, we've always gone to Charlie Brown's, which is amazing because you'll see all these multi-generational families. You'll see a teenager and a grandpa, and people have clearly come back to Denver as their hometown. So we went there with a group of friends, which was really fun. Shout out Charlie Brown's. If you get a chance, again, on Blackout Wednesday, you got to go.
Well, I've also never been to Charlie Brown's. Deep goes often. But I did want to say, because Deep's birthday is so close to Thanksgiving, I kind of feel like you've turned into a birthday Scrooge. So I feel like next year we really need to go big.
Does Thanksgiving really take away from your birthday? It's not
'cause
like
no one's
Christmas.
in town. No one's in town. I want to hang out with my friends and stuff. Anna's like, I've never, because she's never here. No one's
Got
here.
it. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds very hard.
What are you doing next Thanksgiving?
What am I doing next Thanksgiving? I'm at Charlie Brown's.
Blackout Wednesday.
Blackout Wednesday. What are you talking
Probably
about?
you've already heard a little bit from Yara, but I'm going to give you a quick background before we dive a little bit more into this. So, Yara Zokaie, progressive lawmaker in her first year, going into her second year now, and you had a special session underneath your belt. You're an attorney, 3 kids. You were in one of the most competitive primaries. It was kind of like a moderate versus progressive. You were outspent, I think, 2-1, but you still ended up winning by double digits, 20% or something.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah.
Outspent 3-1, still won by 20%. So you kind of came onto the scene as a star. And it was like, who is this progressive person coming from Fort Collins? And you really made a splash at the Capitol this last year, championing, cheaper grocery prices, consumer protection. But then towards the end, there was a controversy involving a House Republican caucus, a photo that was sent around. We would love just to hear a little bit about your background, why you ran for office, and a little bit about the culture of the Capitol.
I have always been politically interested and active, but mostly in federal races. I didn't really get plugged in to local politics much at all. What drove me into that scene was paid leave. And it was that moment of having my middle child, who's now 6, in the NICU and working from the hospital because I didn't know if we'd be able to make rent, and I'd used all of my paid time off while I had complications during that pregnancy. And it just wasn't a unique thing. In fact, I felt really special that I was able to work remotely because pre-COVID, that really was not an option for people. And what I saw around me in the workplace were moms coming back to work far before they were physically able, let alone emotionally ready to leave their baby. And there were moms in the workplace wearing diapers because they were still bleeding heavily postpartum, coming back to work. And I just could not believe that we don't have any paid leave. I realized that federally it just wasn't going to get done. And it was the same time Faith Winter was bringing paid leave. I credit her for me entering this political scene and giving me hope that we could actually do something locally. I watched that thing die twice at the Capitol. It was aggravating to see the politics behind the politics. I showed up as a mom wanting to share my story and figured there's no way this bill fails. And it set the record for the most lobbied against bill at the time. There were a lot of outside interests that came in to ensure it wouldn't pass, and they were successful. It was put on the ballot, and that is how we got it done. I decided to run in 2020 for the first time, and it was Faith and Kathy Kipp who encouraged me to take that step. I ran in a very red district in a seat that I knew we weren't going to win, but wanted to bring closer, and we did accomplish that. It really was because paid leave was on the ballot and wanted that chance to talk to voters. I talked to a lot of really conservative voters who told me they would never vote for me and that they would vote for paid leave. So I took that as a win because even though I lost that seat, paid leave won in that district. That really was not expected. I do contribute that to it winning overall. It was the dynamics of large outside influences that really do change policy that encouraged me to get in. And here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just want to say, shout out to Senator Faith Winter, may she rest in power. For those of you who haven't followed the news, Faith Winter, again, amazing progressive senator, House Representative, helped be a champion for the Family Act, FAMLI, which is paid leave. She unfortunately passed away a couple days before Thanksgiving.
Very shocking, hard news. There are so many women like myself who credit Faith for their involvement in politics.
Yeah. She was at the head of Emerge, too, which recruited women to run for office.
Not only through the work she did was she inspiring, but she taught me how to do a stump speech and was somebody I could call for advice. I know a lot of women relied on her. She really did change the course of politics in this state.
Yeah.
Wait, so where did she represent?
She represented the Westminster area. She was a House rep, and then she was a state senator. She was part of also this in 2018 this group of 5 women who helped flip the state Senate that was under Republican control to more Democratic control. So she's been really instrumental in the state. Her legacy will carry forward to her family and everyone.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember when I was in New Mexico on national news, they were sharing that a Colorado House rep passed in an accident Really sad. I didn't realize. It's nice hearing your stories because I didn't know.
So that's a little bit about the background about why you ran for office.
Yeah.
And now you're there. Is it what you imagined it was going to be like?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of the most politically correct way to say this. I've just finished my first year. I think the building runs on feelings a little more than I anticipated. When you're in a 2 a.m. heated battle and you haven't slept all week, it's sometimes not the intelligent policy discussion we'd all imagine and hope it would be. But
I was going to ask, though, so the paid family leave.
Yeah,
I'm unaware. Did that eventually pass? Did that pass?
It passed once it was put to the voters. That's a really interesting example of what we see in politics. In that building, we're told that people will absolutely hate some of the more progressive changes we want to make. And then you put it to people and they're incredibly popular. And if you don't leave the Capitol and talk to regular people, you would think that everybody hates paid leave, that businesses will fail. It's extremely unpopular and you'll never be reelected. And then you just go talk to a family. They're like, that makes sense.
It is crazy. Again, like Colorado was a purple state, became blue, and it's very dark blue. And there's this culture at the Capitol that people think Democrats are going to lose their supermajorities and Republicans are going to take all their seats. I was talking to 2 lobbyists, and a lot of lobbyists flew in from all over the nation into Colorado during the AI legislation special session that happened. I was talking to some of these folks who spent time in California or New York, and one of them had a really good quote too. They're like, there's nowhere else in the nation where such a blue state is so scared of such an irrelevant minority party. And it's just so fascinating to see that when you do go out to the voters, it's like Prop LL and MM, which, you know, like Spanish school meals for kids, those pass overwhelmingly. It's very popular. But in that building, you would imagine it's like a third rail, like, oh, you're raising taxes to feed kids? I'm not sure if we can do that. And it's crazy that that's the way it is in that building. You know, you're one of the very few of color, especially in the House. I think you're the only Middle Eastern person. Yeah. How do you see that culture of conservatism? Does it come from identity often? Or do you think it just comes from the lobbying and the money?
Well, I think that are you asking me about where that fear of upsetting the Republicans basically comes from? I think that there are a lot of very powerful interests who pay lobbyists a lot of money to convince us that the sky is green, and they're very good at their job. They're very good at being friends with all of us. That is what they are paid to do. And it is our job to actually legislate and to vote for what's best for people. They fulfill a necessary role of providing a perspective of an industry, but we also need to make sure that we are the lobbyists for everyday people, because that's not always a voice that's present. When you're stuck in that building and you don't go back to your district, there's perspectives that sometimes are just not at the table. Sure, a giant corporation might think price gouging legislation is the end of the world, and I was told everybody would hate it. I was going to my town halls ready to defend my bill, expecting everybody to tell me how awful it was, because I had been fed that for months. You really do get sucked into that environment. And everyone was like, yes, that makes sense. Of course, we do not want price gouging for the cost of our groceries. Please regulate that. No, we're not worried about the liability on the retailers. It just was not a question. So, yeah, I think that it's just what the nature of the work is, right? I mean, that's what lobbyists are paid to do.
Wow. And yeah, I'm curious to know more just about, because you said you've been in now for a year. What were you doing before you decided to run for office? What's your background?
I'm a tax attorney, did some private practice for a bit, and then I was the deputy assessor for Larimer County, so overseeing county department. But honestly, the experience I rely on the most is that of being a mom to 3 little kids and struggling to pay rent and start a family and buy a house. We were barely able to break into the housing market. Those experiences drive a lot of my policy. And of course, I'm a nerd for tax law, so that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then too, you mentioned being a Persian American. How has that shaped your experience?
I am one of 2 people of Middle Eastern descent. The Senator Judah is in the Senate, so I'm the only one in the House. And I will say it is a responsibility that I take it very seriously that I am representing a population throughout the state. And I do hear from folks of Middle Eastern descent throughout the state as being the only representative from their culture and from their background. And I will say the attacks I receive tend to be pretty Islamophobic and racist. I recently went to a conference and met other Iranian American legislators in other states, and it was really interesting to me that they've had very similar experiences. The way that we are treated and perceived is very different, and we have to walk a line. I'm going to proudly represent my culture, and sometimes that means that a very simple bill about a checkbox for Middle Eastern descent, which I would love to get into. But
I testified that bill.
Oh, thank you. What we were trying to do is just add a checkbox on government forms for people of Middle Eastern, North African, or South Asian background, because currently we have to check white or other. If you talk to anybody of Middle Eastern descent, this is a frustration because we don't get good data. We don't know how we have disparate outcomes. It just feels like we don't exist. I thought that would be an easy bill. It turned into a long floor debate where we were questioning whether institutional racism exists. I was being told I was being racist by wanting to be seen. It got very ugly to a point we had to take a break and try to reset everybody because the temperature was getting so hot. And I was sitting there defending that bill alone as the only person of a Middle Eastern background. There are these moments that are very personal.
And as someone who's worked on staff there and now works as a lobbyist there, I feel like the women of color in particular in that building feel like they go through so much scrutiny. And you in particular, I feel like as a freshman, you've handled it with such grace and such power. And for Anna and the listeners, this horrible, tragic thing happened where you were on the floor talking about one of your bills where like about price gouging, right? And one of your Republican colleagues took a photo of you, sent it to the Republican group chat, this photo, and then they made disgusting remarks about you in this group chat. Got leaked online where the worst of the worst, like these trolls and stuff, started going after you and your family, but you still handled that with grace. During the special session, I remember getting goosebumps as you went down there with colleagues on your back, giving that speech. You know, I just laid that out, a little bit of background about that, but what are your takeaways from that experience? And what was your perspective going through that?
Yeah, so I went through the worst of it in March, April. It was in mid-April when the photo was leaked, and nobody really knew. People had seen some of the commentary online, but I don't think people knew exactly what I was going through. I was sitting on the floor trying to do my job, also knowing that my kids received a threat at school. It's very hard to try to sit there and do my job and be present. I can't be present wondering if my kids are okay, but I'm in Denver and I'm trying to get support out to Fort Collins to make sure that they're safe. What was really discouraging about that is the number of people who were involved on the Republican side. The minority leader at the time told me she was going to get to the bottom of it. She said it as one mom to another. This is horrible. We can't let this happen. And while she was saying all that, she knew exactly who had done it. It was so hurtful to find that out after the fact. And it took the Democrats going through a public records request to get the security camera footage for us to find out. About a month, we were told that they're looking into it. And they clearly...
in the group chat, there's this app called Signal that a lot of folks use. I suppose the Republican legislators and some of their staff are all in one large Signal chat, and that's where it was sent. So every single Republican actually knew. Only one or two of them said, hey, we shouldn't be doing this.
I think only one said we shouldn't be doing this. And they did that in a private message to the minority leader, which she did not respond to.
Wait, so someone took a picture of you on the House floor, sent it in the group chat, and then people started...
there was the pylon within the Republican group chat, but what really caused the issues for me and my family was when it went to the internet, which happened within a minute of it going to the chat. I mean, it was somebody within that chat clearly fed it to anonymous troll accounts.
Wow. Which led to the comments you're saying about people.
I mean, I will say, like, I received rape threats, death threats, and the worst for me was the threat against my kids. My staff was going through trauma because they had to listen to my voicemails, hearing what people are saying they want to do to you. That is just very heavy and hard to do. So we were trying to take turns so that nobody had to do that for too long. The emails, texts, I mean, it was a constant thing, and it is something I still have to deal with. And speaking about this now, I'm probably going to have to deal with it. There was an email this morning about it.
This happens so often. I think it happens to Democrats and progressives, but when a progressive is a woman of color in particular, Representative Elizabeth Epps, who used to represent parts of Denver, used to get these horrible, horrible remarks as well. And it's designed, this pressure campaign. At one end, you have these lobbyists and corporate folks saying to stop your bills, that people are going to come to your town halls. And at the other side, I think it's two halves of the same coin. You have this cultural pressure it's made for like white men to succeed and put that on it. And it's just like this horrific thing. But I mean, but to speak of the triumphs, you ended up being one of the most successful legislators of your freshman class. And the people who were responsible to this have now resigned, and they're no longer in the building, right?
There's folks who participated in it who are still there. But yes, the Rep. Armagost, who took the photo, has resigned, as has the minority leader.
He fled the state.
Yes.
Good luck,
good
Arizona.
riddance.
That's your
Wait,
problem.
did he leave in relation to this, or was that separate?
He made the decision to resign as we were investigating this. I'm not going to say exactly what drove that decision, but
Then he resigned 2 days before censure.
he did then move up his resignation so that we could not censure him,
Censure means
to bring an official resolution saying that the House believes this is bad.
okay.
And so we were ready to take that action for this situation, which I will say was a very difficult decision for me to make. I did not expect this to become known at all. I was surprised to find out that we even knew who it was. I had actually asked our caucus not to look into it because I really just wanted it to go away. And I was worried the more we investigated it, the more it would become a story, which it did. I am now glad that I did pursue it, but it was a very difficult decision to do that. When reporters first called me that they knew who took the photo, I was very hesitant to talk to them at all. And for a while, did not give any statement about it. But the reason I chose to eventually do that is because, as Deep just said, it's not a unique experience what I went through. Women of color in that building, any woman in any workplace faces a double standard. Like there is a culture of violence that exists against women that any woman in a professional setting can attest to how that's impacted them. I think women of color in politics face that tenfold. And we do have a target on our back. I think that it's poignant that I was speaking about my price gouging bill when this happened, and am a very outspoken legislator who does stand by my values fiercely. I think that that also puts a target on my back. The reason I eventually decided to pursue this and pursue a censure was because every woman of color in that building has had a similar experience. The circumstances just weren't right to bring a formal action. We had a situation in the workplace. We had video evidence of it. We had a written chat. We had a journalist who went through an investigative process. So we had enough there. But there are so many women who face these kinds of threats and never see any resolve. We have to call this out and say this has to stop. I don't think we fixed it, but I'm hoping there's some hesitation before somebody does something like this again.
There needs to be accountability. The fact that you bravely decided to push forward, and the fact that there was enough there. It was in writing. You guys were able to document everything. I know just in my own experience of women in my circle, countless stories never get brought to justice or accountability or anything like that. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people really realize that. I mean, yeah, that this happens. And
I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy and process that exists for a reason, but sometimes that also is a hindrance. Sometimes it exists to prevent us from being able to bring things forward. But this was a interesting thing to navigate. I mean, we had this resolution to censure ready to go. He resigned to avoid it. Within that same hour, the minority leader called our leadership a liar. Then there's the question of if we can censure someone who just resigned. It was bit of a shit show to figure out how to even be able to speak about this. We eventually got to the point where we were able to bring a general resolution to at least speak about what happened. But even that, I had to take a separate like moment of privilege to address the overarching things because the resolution was limited. There's bureaucracy and systems that exist, and sometimes those things do hinder us.
I don't think it's a coincidence that you were targeted because of your progressive stances during a grocery price gouging bill. These are tools of white supremacy culture used by oppressive systems, oppressive parties to silence folks like yourself from advocating folks who look like you, working class families, other mothers. And I think we need to connect those two things, right? That like the culture of toxicity at the Capitol is oftentimes weaponized by the same corporate interests to make it so the late nights are hard. You don't want to be away from your family. You're scared for your safety. I think it's amazing that your first year, you tackled all this head first and you crushed it.
I wish I could say we fixed sexual harassment, but we're not quite there yet. There is a culture against women, I think in particular, that exists, against women of color in particular, against progressive women of color in particular. And it's really disheartening that in my circumstance, for example, there were women who were a part of perpetuating that. And they're victims of that too. This cultural difference that exists, this double standard that we have to walk, does affect Republican women as well. And yet they were piling on. So it's particularly disappointing to see that.
As somebody that's now a year in and having all of this happen in your first year, I know people that are wanting to run for office, and we saw after this last November election cycle, especially Zoran winning in New York City, the amount of people that are already planning to run for the next race has increased. But I know that some people I've talked to who want to run are scared to run because of safety concerns and threats. So I'm curious, as somebody who's been in it for a year, faced all of this, you know, is there advice or, you know, how you handle some of that, those safety threats, or do you regret it? Are you happy you made the choice?
I wish I could say something super inspiring. When young people, or particularly people who represent a voice that's not usually seen at the table, ask me about running and what this experience of serving is like, I tell them it's pretty awful and that they should do it. I mean, I think we have to have more people who are often underrepresented in political spaces taking up that space. I shouldn't be the first Iranian to serve in the legislature. I shouldn't be the only one at the table when we're speaking about issues that impact my community. And yet I am. And when I speak to Iranian legislators in other states, they are also the only one in their state. So we need those voices. You're going to face a different level of scrutiny, and it doesn't always feel safe. And those are things that only an individual can decide if that's worth it for them, but it's a change that we need to start seeing. And the only way to do it is for people to run. I mean, I think electoral politics is the number one way we can actually shape the society we want to see and that we want to leave for our kids. But this experience is hard. This is a very hard job. And to be someone who is different and who this space was not made for, like this space was not made for somebody like me to be able to serve. It's not made for somebody who is month to month to be able to serve. It's meant to be prohibitive, but it is so important. I think that we've been able to get really important things done, and I'm really proud of the bills I've passed, and I'm ready to do it again. But yes, I'm glad we've had this break so that I could reset. And there's been many moments when I'm looking at threats against me and my kids where I really do question if it's worth it. And I just feel so strongly about the work I want to get done that for me, it's something I'm going to keep showing up and doing. But
hell yeah,
to act like it's not a sacrifice or a tough thing, there is a very human element to this. And doing this with little kids is scary at times.
The unstoppable Yara Zokaie.
Oh.
Yeah. But no, I am so inspired. Like, truly.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Oh my.
Again, facing the adversity, you're like, you duck and you throw your own punches.
And sometimes you get punched in the face. I get told that I'm brave a lot, and being brave doesn't feel good. It feels like you're very scared and you're making a decision to take that step anyways. But in that moment does not feel great. Like speaking on the floor about this did not feel good. In fact, I think there's pictures of me before I went to speak with my head down where I'm like, I think I might just throw up. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this today. The image people see, I don't know if they always realize all that goes on behind that, but yeah, I will say I'm grateful for support that I have in that building, even when it's not a lot of people, because it's the only thing that keeps us going sometimes.
More people should do it,
More people should absolutely do it. I feel so inspired by the folks who are stepping up. We are seeing a new generation of leaders step up, and it's exciting. The more and more people that do that, the more we're going to combat the toxic culture at the Capitol, the wealth inequality we face as a nation, the racism. There's endless issues for us to tackle, and I'm so inspired by the new generation of leaders that are stepping up to do it.
And I really just want to drive home the point of what you were saying about people call you brave, or people assume like courage, there's not doubt or fear that you're facing. But because as I started, when I was a Fed who lost my job, I started posting on social media, and a lot of people would be like, oh, you're so brave for doing that. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't mean that I don't have my own doubts or fear. It's like you decide, you choose courage, but fear is with it. You're scared at the same time. I just think that's a very misunderstood concept, or the fact that it is uncomfortable, but we're doing it anyways because usually we feel like there's really no other option, or it's something we're passionate about. And I don't know, that ability to, I feel like I've heard about this recently, and just wanting to, in this pivot of life that I'm in, ensure that I'm choosing a path with meaning and purpose. The more you can connect who you are with what you believe and what you do, the more you can connect those three things, like the more meaningful life you have. And that's research from Stanford. That's what they say. And I was like, yeah, honestly, like I can feel that though. I love that more women are speaking up, especially women of color. I wanted to say something about not having a box to check.
Yeah.
Because this is what's interesting. They make you check white for both of you guys, but you don't have the white passing privilege.
Asian.
You
Okay,
check
well, yeah,
Asian?
I guess. You
Yeah.
Asian.
See, I have nothing.
Yeah. With the fact that you don't have a box to check.
Yes.
So you are forced to check white if you're going to check a box.
Yes.
And what I find ironic is that if you're checking the white box, you're not experiencing life in America as a white person. White passing privilege, all the privilege that comes with that. For example, I'm a Latina that has white passing privilege. If you're forced to check this white box, but you're not living the white experience in America. Did people talk about this, or what are your thoughts?
Yes, they sure did. So the debate on this bill for us to ask for a checkbox, and that is so we can see what our outcomes are. Like, do we have different experiences in healthcare and criminal justice? I think we do. And if you talk to any person who's brown, they're going to tell you that their experience feels different, but we don't have the data to back that up. The debate around it was essentially saying that we are white. And I will say that's not my experience. It was very interesting. I mean, it was hard to hear white men tell me that I have the same experience that they do, and also say that they do not think I should have the opportunity to show otherwise. Walking down to debate it, one of the white Republican men was like, oh, you need a checkbox? That's the kind of environment that I work in. I had to defend that bill by myself. I had some colleagues come show support, and I appreciate that, but I was the only one who really had an experience to speak to this. I don't think that the threats I received, the Islamophobia, my experience coming of age post 9/11, none of that feels similar to what my white friends have experienced. But in that debate, I was told that I am the same as a white man and should get over it.
Floored by that, but if people, coming from I have data science background, if you don't capture this data, you're missing the disparities. We need this data. This data is important, and if you don't, I mean, obviously, I guess that kind of benefits them, because then they have to be like, oh, there are no disparities in care with you, with you all, because they don't know.
Right.
If there's no data, if the data doesn't exist, then they can say whatever they want. That's why it's so important to capture these nuances. But that's wild. Before I lost my job with CDC, there was a lot of talk about not collecting race and ethnicity data, the harms that can actually do, because if 500 people died, but you don't know if that's men, if that's women, the race and ethnicity behind those people, you're not able to capture disparities
One of the amendments that Republicans kept bringing during this debate was to get rid of all check boxes. And that was their compromise. We can do that when those check boxes all have the same outcome. We know right now that they don't. We don't know how that is in particular for my community, but that showed a lack of understanding that we do experience life differently. We have higher maternal mortality if you are Black. One party wanting to ignore that says a lot.
Absolutely. And it bleeds into everything that happens at the Capitol, right?
Yep.
The policy is very much connected to the culture. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, we just got to fix the culture and then the policy will come later. I think they're both connected, actually. If you want a better workplace for progressives and working class people to be elected officials, you're going to also start needing to champion those policies. Because the people who don't want those policies to pass, they're going to have this like mindset. Brendan Lee Mulligan, he's a dungeon master and he's like a comedian, and he says this thing that's really interesting. It's like when he's designing the villains in his stories, he's like, before you were a fascist and authoritarian, you were a bully. Personality predates ideology. If you're gonna be a bully and mean and aggressive, you're probably gonna lean one way ideologically. If you're more open-minded and kind and caring, you lean a different way. So I think that bleeds into the whole thing there. And I think you've done an amazing job wearing your heart on your sleeves, fighting these fights for the working class, for people who look like us. It's been amazing.
Okay.
Okay.
So no, as we're thinking though about changing the culture at the Capitol and getting, people who maybe never ran for office to run, I think people would want to know, like, what does a typical week look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, every week feels like a month when you're in session. I think Deep would agree with that. But for me, I'm on Finance and Judiciary. So they are two committees that go very late.
Heavy hitter committees too.
Thank you. I don't know if that's a compliment at all.
Very nerd.
Thank you.
Not many people are gonna be like, "Oh, you serve on the
finance.
judicial committee." You're on finance. They're important committees. Just take our word.
Well, I'll say I fought hard to be on my committees. I begged to be on them, and I was told, like, "Are you sure?" I have little kids, and I love policy in these spaces. I might be in committee 4 nights a week until 2 a.m. I commute back to Fort Collins, because my $45,000 does not cover another home. We get a per diem stipend to help cover that, and it's just not enough. I need that to support my family. So I do commute what should be an hour, can be a lot more, drive back. There are times where I would get home at 3 and get up at 5 and drive back. When I say that 2 a.m. discussions aren't great, it's like we're running on no sleep. Mm-hmm. There was a time I stepped out into the hallway and I was crying, and everybody wants to know, like, what the drama is, like, what happened? Why are you sad? It's like, I just miss my kids. I just realized I hadn't held my baby in a week because he's asleep when I get home and I leave before he gets up. And there are times in committee, like, my kids are calling because they want to say goodnight, and I just have to step out and do a goodnight phone call instead of seeing them. It's a family sacrifice that was very hard on all of us. And my kids have now learned what's going to happen come January. So we're all preparing mentally for it. Within that week, so we'll have late nights in committee. I might be having a big bill before media that week. I might be doing a bunch of press conferences and TV interviews, and also defending a bill in committee and then going on the floor to defend something else. Or I might have 2 bills in a committee and then it might be up for a final vote. Our days and weeks are crazy, to a point where my husband started tuning in on the Colorado channel to watch my day, because I'd get home before we got the 2 a.m. nights. There were times I would see my family at bedtime, but he'd ask how my day was, and I couldn't even explain all the things that happened in that day. So he just started watching along. And there's also times where he's watching along and it's like, I'm not in that building right now. He's like, I can't believe they just said this. And it's like, I'm in another building right now, but thank you for watching. But he's amazing. And there's times he'll text me like, you have made your point. It is time to stop talking and come home.
I've been there late at night on a bill, and there's like 2 bills left. And then you'll have like 2 judiciary members start arguing about, are we sure that this comma is supposed to be here? And it's just like all these legal nerds. Just debating it. And people are like in the crowd, like looking at you like, can you just do this later?
Yeah, I will say this. You get sucked in when you're in that room. Like, I will debate a comma for an hour, And there's a time I was remote and listening in to the committee. And when you're not there, I'm like, we are kind of insufferable. We really should shut the fuck up. It's really important matters in judiciary, like whether someone's going to go to jail. Like there's a heavy weight to it. So we actually read bills line by line and make sure that they mean what we want them to mean. I think it's hilarious that my husband can listen in. So I'm like, this is really important. It's like, this one isn't. You can wrap this one up.
His Spotify Unwrapped, his top number one thing is just Judiciary Committee.
He's just listening to Judiciary Committee.
That's like a great husband. It's Spotify Unwrapped, Judiciary Committee, Finance Committee, Yara on the House floor.
That is all he did from January to May.
I feel like this was Deep's secret way of talking about Spotify.
That was really good.
But I meant great if you just did a proper segue.
I didn't segue it at all. You want to do it again?
Yeah, do it better. You're like husbands like Spotify Unwrapped. You're supposed to do that. Well, the thing is, I wore this shirt, actually. I wore Taylor Swift's 1989 in celebration. This is actually a limited time edition sweatshirt that only went to her top fans on Spotify.
This is probably going to hurt my reelection, but I'm really not a Taylor Swift fan. I mean, are you a millennial?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What do you think
But I do want to say, though, that my number one streamed artist, and it has been for years, Bad Bunny, was also the world's top
very
streamed
nice.
Spotify artist.
Hey, Super Bowl halftime show.
Above Taylor Swift. And I'm going to go see him in Mexico City in a few weeks, so.
That's dope, because he's not coming to America, right?
No, he's
Like-
not coming, yeah. He's doing a
Well,
world
Puerto
tour.
Rico's part of America.
I feel like if I share my number
doing a world
one, we'll say too much about me.
Oh, who's your number one on
Yeah.
Spotify? Unwrapped?
Mine's Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know.
I have a
Megan
unpopular
Thee
nominee.
Megan Thee Stallion, and I think my second was Cardi B, so that tells you where I'm at.
So
Yeah.
I had Vampire Weekend and Kendrick Lamar too. There's a mix.
I used to be embarrassed about. He's been on my Spotify Unwrapped top artist for a long time, and I used to be a little bit more embarrassed about this. But I'm gonna say it. I've been to 7 of his concerts. I've been to his concerts at the Red Rocks, the Ogden Theater. I've been up in Fort Collins. I saw one of his first shows ever. One of my top artists of all time was Macklemore. Macklemore has aged so gracefully when it comes to his political stances, like his songs about Palestine and Heinz Hall.
Yeah.
One of the reasons he was my top artist is he has this amazing song called Growing Up about having his baby, and it's like, oh, I'm having a baby, but I feel like I'm still growing up, and it's with Ed Sheeran. That was my number one song this year.
Wow.
You still feel like you're growing up? That's sweet.
Have you not heard the
Do you
song?
not feel like you're
No.
still growing up? You feel like you did it?
Well,
The
no, not
listeners,
that.
'cause I
It's
don't have the
mostly,
rights.
it's mostly just like, that was really cute. Like, I didn't know that that's how you're feeling as a dad right now.
It's
I
a
guess.
great
I just
song.
felt like that was like an intimate, I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say,
Aw.
I think I finally feel like I know what I'm doing, but there was a long time as a parent where it's like, I shouldn't be trusted with this.
We had talked about this in a previous episode. Like, so Anna, PhD, doctor, scientist, CDC, like, I have a law degree, you have a law degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you expect that when you get into these halls of power that people are professional and they know what they're doing, and there's wise people, and it's like the West Wing, right? The TV show. And then you walk in and they're literally bullies.
My
Jerks.
favorite Michelle Obama statement was, I've been in the room with the smartest men in the world and they're not that smart. I think there's been a lot of moments in my professional career where I have felt like I should not say something because everybody's already thought of that and it's probably too silly. And then you say it and you realize nobody's thought of it. And there's just been a lot of those moments where it's like, I think as women, we sell ourselves short a lot and assume that our contributions aren't valid or that someone smarter is sitting there. And that just has not been the case.
Yeah, I think I just had this moment when Deep mentioned your favorite song, the Macklemore one. I was
Yeah.
like, because I guess I assume that you feel grown up, you have a house, you're married, now you have a baby. I'm single, unemployed, and I don't have it figured out, but I assume that you probably feel like you do. But then I was like, oh yeah, we all really are figuring it out.
We're building it as we go.
Our segue to look at your Hinge profile.
Oh yeah, okay, wait. So
Anna,
Yara?
update on Anna's dating corner. That was actually supposed to be one of our segments.
I
Fun.
find this fascinating because I got married before apps were a thing, and I just think dating culture sounds horrible right now. So,
Yeah.
Anna, back to you. Anna, take it away.
What's funny is I actually sent a screenshot of a bio
yeah.
to Deepen, his wife, Harshi, in our group chat because I was like, this is dating in Denver. It was like a guy that literally said he was looking for crunchy with a career, quote. I was like, what? And then also being like, looking for something serious, but not seriously looking. I was like, that's like literally all men
Lovely.
in Denver. Pretty much.
Was he contesting on Love is Blind?
I know, I've only seen the first 3 episodes. But I did run into Jordan in the wild, which was really, I haven't actually seen the show, but because I know Deep is a super fan, I was like, I have to go up to him so that I can take a selfie with him so I can tell people that I saw him and they believe me that it happened.
Well, it's been an amazing episode, but as we're closing out, Anna, what do you got for our call to action this week for our listeners?
Yes. So we've officially made it to December, and I know a lot of people are big into holiday shopping. My call to action would be, when thinking about holiday shopping, try to support local businesses. If you can support a local business that's owned by an immigrant, that would be even better. I went to a community event recently. It was hosted by a nonprofit called Cocina Libre, and they support immigrants. All the money they raise goes into helping immigrant chefs get licensing and job training skills here in the U.S., and they're all about building community and bridging across cultures over food. The founder is actually 2 professors. One's at DU. She's from Argentina. She's an immigrant herself, and her husband's from Puerto Rico. And you know, they've talked about this fact that a lot of immigrants in the U.S., as we've been talking about in today's episode, are very misunderstood. They really try to share the stories of immigrants, and they have 2 cookbooks out, which you can buy if you go to their website. If you just Google Cocina Libre, you can order
And we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and this would be like a great gift. Like, not only, again, the first book was called Cocina Libre Recetas, basically recipes of immigrant resistance is what it has here. The second one was Sazón y Liberación, which is like flavor and liberation, essentially. I think what's fun about cookbooks is that you're gifting something that they could have an experience picking out a recipe. It's kind of fun, you know? I mean, It's a sweet thing, especially when you have family members, for example, like my mom, who kind of has everything. This is a sweet gift. Don't worry, Mom, I'll get you something else because this isn't for you.
Anna's mom is a great listener.
But I did tell her about it. Once I started learning more about their mission, they came out with a documentary. I went to the documentary screening and I was trying to fight back tears. Not necessarily tears of sadness, but it was so heartwarming to hear the stories. They had chefs there that prepared food locally, and they're actually doing a fundraiser. Support your local businesses. So it was great being here.
Anna, great plugs, amazing stuff. We'll have those links in the show notes. Yara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
As always, leave us a 5-star review. Take a listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Leave us a comment. Match with Anna on Hinge.
Oh my gosh.
Share this with a friend. Subscribe to our Instagram. Would love to see this. So thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Bye.